Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the No Credentials Podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking to one of the coolest cats that I know, Eric the Plattypus Platt. But first, as you may have noticed, I've got a little bit of sponsorship money now. So I'd like to thank our first official sponsor of the pod, Impact Jiu-Jitsu. Impact will be hosting a Jiu-Jitsu seminar with Anthony Burchak on June 24th at 6 p.m. You can use the promo code NOCRED20 for 20% off. Check out the link below and hit NOCRED20 for 20% off the Jiu-Jitsu seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Platt.
Pop on these headphones. Let me know how it sounds.
Sexy.
Nice.
Do we notice, like, does it need to be kind of close? Do you need to,
They say about like a fist
a
distance.
fist? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I get talking and then I'm like, and then.
Yeah. Exactly, right? Yeah, so as long as you keep it right about there, I think that's good.
See, we do need the boom for height adjustments. And,
Yeah, I guess it does. It does work good for that.
yeah. Plus, if you get tall people, short people.
Yeah, for sure. So were you like a small child with this raspy voice, or did this develop over a long term?
Well, I always thought my voice was annoyingly sort of high-pitched or whiny, at least
Really?
whenever I hear it in recording or when I'm coaching, and I'm like, I wouldn't listen to me. Like, if I sounded like this, I would ignore that guy. But,
You've got a very distinctive voice.
that's a way to say it. That person has a distinctive look.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Yeah.
to be kind.
Yeah.
I do think people know, they know when it's me. They know when
Yeah.
it's me talking.
For sure. Yeah, and one thing that we've talked about is that like she'll have like a female coach that is usually coaching her, and sometimes like a high pitch voice is easy to hear over the noise.
Yes.
Because sometimes when you're in the midst of it, you just can't hear anyone.
Right.
And then so having that a girl actually coaching you sometimes is better because you hear that. And I feel like you've got a similar voice where it's like it's you.
It cuts through.
Cuts
Yeah.
through the noise a little bit.
I try. I can be loud, but I'm at home. I'm not allowed to yell. There's no yelling.
Yeah.
Because apparently I'm scary. But I noticed that I lose my voice like after 2 matches because I'm not used to it. So it's like I need to go out and do my training to coach.
Yeah. You do have a very good coaching style.
Well, thanks. I think it makes a difference. I think being able to convey information directly in fewer words is a skill rather than do the one no other arm no other under no and then the
Yeah.
moment's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Or just general useless advice like pass his guard.
Right. Yeah. Don't let him get that. Don't let him get.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Get out. Get out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, don't get up is always a fun one. Or squeeze is my favorite.
take him down.
Yeah, take him down is a good one.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very like specific movements. It's like, put your right arm here. You can look for this. Think of
Right.
this next.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Thanks. I try.
Yeah, you're very polite, and you're not not polite. You're very calm in the way that you do it too. And like one thing that like the one thing I remember just from this last weekend, at one point you were coaching Issa, and like he had got under the chin for a second. I'm like, under the chin, there it is, and you're like, you can go over the chin. No need to be polite here.
Yes. Yeah. Well, certainly. Just on my TikTok, I posted yet another version of finishing over the chin, but I feel very strongly about it. But
it's totally true. Yeah.
you have to. It's sort of like if you were gonna shoot a double leg but not bend over. It's like, okay, you could, but you're missing out on a lot of effectiveness, I think.
For sure. Yeah. And you can strangle someone over the chin.
100%. They'll go out.
Or you'll break their mandible.
Yes.
Like either or is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think unless they've had damage, I think they will pass out first from the choke. But yes, that's my contention is if anyone in the gym ever complains, then say, well, you don't have to tap to the pain. You can wait for the choke. Like,
Yeah.
that's up to you. You don't
Yeah.
you don't have to tap to the pain.
Yeah,
But,
exactly. That's always a funny one. It's like, well, it's more of a neck crank. It's like you can be decapitated if you
Right,
want.
right.
Like that. You
if
can.
you would like for your vertebrae to be separated, we
Yeah.
can do that.
It'll happen, and then the choke will set in.
Right. Yeah. And I would prefer you tap sooner, but
Yeah.
you have that choice. Yeah. No, but I think just in driving over with my big thing is that with anything jiu-jitsu related or not, is the law of specificity applies that if you want to be good at something, you need to do the actual thing. If you want to be good at jiu-jitsu, you need to actually do jiu-jitsu. If you want to be better at wrestling, you need to actually do wrestling. If you want to be better at coaching, you need to actually coach. And that's I was just thinking of the one match that he lost. The gentleman who's very, very, very good, but he played a style of just constant inverting. He was waiting for you to step in and then invert. And if I had done a better job of sort of diagnosing the situation, then sticky with a standing passing style, outside passing style is not the best way, I would say, to combat that, because when you're standing, you're asking the person to invert. It's very difficult to stop an inversion, but if you were to go down on your knees, force half guard, they can still invert, but you have a much better chance of stopping that. So it just, there's always, just because you're good at jiu-jitsu doesn't mean you're a good coach. Just because you're a good coach doesn't mean you're good at coaching certain people or certain styles. And so you can always improve.
Yeah, right.
But it's in the doing. Me knowing how to do a really good leg drag does not mean I can necessarily coach a very good leg drag at the time. So just the law of specificity, I think, for all things, and coaching being one of them. You need to do coaching if you want to get good at coaching.
Wow. Yeah, and that's an interesting point too. And you can be a good coach and have to understand how to flip a game plan in a moment's notice too. Like identify, okay, the game plan that we're going into right now probably isn't the best for this particular situation, and being able to identify in real time and switch, be able to say, okay, back off from that game plan, let's go into this right away. I mean, that takes skill too.
I think so. And then also, of course, you have to have worked with your athlete and know that they can do that. If they have no ability to pass on the ground, then you telling them, like, yes, technically that might be the right idea, but realistically, let's not do that.
Yeah.
But that's my, I guess, over the last 5 years, just watching the Danaher Death Squad and specifically Gordon Ryan, just somebody that can diagnose the position and then the weaknesses that position presents and then attack that, rather than just the old school mentality of, I have a great knee cut pass, that's what we're going to do. If he counters that, we're just going to stalemate for 10 minutes, and that's the match. Or we get stuck in, I'm really good at 50-50, he's really good at staying in 50-50 and countering. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But being able, every position has a strength and a weakness, and if you're just applying your A game regardless of what they're doing, you're going to struggle. But it's a lot harder to be good at every aspect in order to do a body lock passing, a half guard passing, a camping style passing, Toreando, leg drag. You would have to be good
At all of it.
at all of them.
Yeah.
But once you are, whatever they present, you can present sort of the antidote to it, rather than just be bigger and stronger and faster, which was largely the meta for a long time.
Yeah.
Just be better.
Just more acai.
Yeah, exactly.
More steroids.
Exactly. Just
Which is
pump it
really
up.
not a bad strategy.
It's proven the most effective.
Yeah. Against most people, it'll really get you far.
Well, I mean, if you look at all the people that win, it's, yes, they have good technique, but they are large individuals.
Yeah, right?
They're strong.
Yeah.
There's no excess body fat.
Barring a few different people, it is interesting.
Yes.
Some people are getting high levels of success without the steroids. It seems like Mikey Musumeci is definitely them, the Ruotolo brothers.
Ruotolo, yeah.
At least with the size.
Yes. Although I think conveniently with them, if you're in a smaller size and it's a weight category, you can only be so big.
That's true.
So if you look at Mikey without his shirt on, he's shredded.
Yeah, he is shredded
out of his mind.
And apparently he only eats pizza and pasta too.
Right.
That seems interesting.
Right, and I think always the counter is when they throw out people like Hoist, popped back in the day, and if you look at his physique, he's not impressing
He's not
anyone.
huge. Yeah.
Well, and there's no definition or anything, and so my overall contention is that as a professional, if you are training in a sport that is designed to destroy the body, you are lifting regularly and going at fairly high intensity, just the ability to recover becomes difficult without additional help.
Okay.
So even if they're not jacked out of their minds, if somebody's legitimately training 5-6 hours a day, jiu-jitsu, hard rounds, lifting 2-3 hours a day, that's very difficult to do over
Long
several
period
years.
of time.
It's
Yeah.
not, your body's not built for
So
that.
even if you're not on trend, you could be on some sort of sauce that's keeping you going.
Yeah, just to recover, and then there's always just the moral, ethical question of if they're not testing for it and they tell you they're not testing for it, is it wrong?
Yeah.
What constitutes illegal PED? If you have a chef you can afford to have someone meal prep for you and cook, I would say that's almost just as much of a PED as taking test. Or if you have sponsors and money and your parents, and you can live rent-free, have a car, train full-time, travel, compete, do all those things, I like to say that money is the biggest PED of all.
Yeah.
Because I can go to the best gyms, I can get the best trainers, I can have the best coaches,
Best recovery.
the best
You
recovery.
eat cold plunge 2-3 times a day.
I can go to doctors when I'm injured. There's
Yeah.
not every jiu-jitsu person in America gets the stuff fixed.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
true.
Shout out Steve Rosenberg and his knee that didn't get surgery for 5 years.
Wow.
So it's a real welcome to America sort of situation where you make a living by training, but if you get injured, you can't afford to get it fixed. So,
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, so I think it's a difficult question. And then in say Brazil, where it's part of the culture, and Mika Galvao is coached by his dad, so he must have been very, very much aware and a part of his sauce program. And it's not illegal, and it's just a normal thing. So
Yeah.
is it frowned upon, and why, and what's your reasoning, and all the things? Because if you're simply saying, well, PEDs aren't good for your body, well, jiu-jitsu is not good for your body.
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
For sure. Yeah, exactly.
What are we arguing about? So it's just I think it's not as cut and dry, black and white.
Yeah.
It's a global sport. The highest ADCC place doesn't test for it. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, everyone's always been curious in like MMA, if you were to just to let people just do full steroids all the time, what would it be like? I mean, jiu-jitsu is kind of that sport that just allows for it.
Right.
So if it's not illegal, is it that big a deal?
Right.
It's really just more of your own personal moral
Exactly.
debate of like, do I want to do this for my own personal health?
Right. and that's why I say it's hard, because you're just doing any sport, but especially jiu-jitsu, will inevitably give you injuries and sort of life-changing injury. Like, you will have parts of your body that will never be the same thanks to jiu-jitsu. So if you're saying, well, it'll throw off my hormones, it's like, yes, it will, 100%. It will probably also blow out your knee at some point, and your shoulder, and your neck won't be the same. So if you're trying to preserve your body, then
Maybe just don't do the sport.
maybe don't do the sport.
Yeah.
So
Well, it also just depends on what your goals are. If your
Yes.
goals are to be the highest level athlete in the sport, you kind of got to be on the same competition level as all of them. If your goal is just to train as high as best as you can, and maybe it isn't win
Right.
ADCC. Maybe because one person said the analogy that like taking steroids is like borrowing from your future health, and you'll have to pay that back with interest. So I kind of agree to that in that, like, I don't know. That's one reason I wouldn't want to do any sort of
Right.
hormone therapy or anything like that, at least until like I'm older. And even then, I would never do like tren or anything super
Right.
serious. Maybe just like a TRT.
Yes.
So-
Yeah. I think it's exactly that. We all measure our own risk reward. We all right now have the option. We could say train more than we do currently. Like there would always be an option to train harder, train more. But at some point, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, and you set your own goals and you pursue them. But I think it's the other thing I would say is that I've yet to see where they go around and award you for your sort of own personal moral stance on things. Like there's not like a gold, silver, bronze at ADCC, and then they go around for the people who are just good competitors and just did their best. Or,
exactly.
You didn't do
first place without steroids.
Right, first place without steroids, or just like, well, should we have it for like the hobbyist? Like, well, if you could train only 3 times a week, but you lost miserably, but you get an award because everyone else was training 4 or more times.
Yeah.
I've never seen any of those kind of awards given out. So you kind of have to do your own.
It is really impressive when people are like hobbyists or like have other big things going on in their life and they are able to have success at a high level. Like who's that guy that won East Coast trials? I think at like the 99 where he like owns like a law firm or something too.
Paul Ardea or something.
Yeah. That guy. Yeah. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Guy has a fucking law firm and he's like winning ADC trials.
Yeah. And he's always up there. Like it's not, it's not just this one time.
Yeah.
There's a while ago, there was a competitor, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, Hillary, and she is a doctor now, and she was in medical school winning world championships and stuff. So it can be done. Probably those of us who are not as disciplined, that's not for us.
Yeah.
But I think it goes back to specificity and, getting in. You and I both train in situations where sometimes you're there, you're talking, you get some rounds in, you roll with some white belts, you chill, you do some silly things, and then you go home. Really, you didn't get better. Like, really, you had fun. You had fun, but you didn't get better. But if you had specific training partners, you had specific goals, like, regardless of what everyone else is doing, I'm working on my passing, and I'm doing this, and I'm going to do 6-minute rounds, but it's just passing, and I'm just doing this. I'm working on this problem. I'm solving this problem. I'm getting better at this. I'm wrestling. I don't care what anyone else is doing. I've got my 2 or 3 wrestling partners. We're just wrestling. We're getting it. It's just you have to take, I think, greater ownership over your training, where regardless of what other people are doing, this is what I'm doing.
That's interesting. So, do you think that is the way to progress at the once you get to a higher level? Because it does become less clear, like to me, of like what are the specific things that I need to do to like increase my skills. Because at the beginning, it's like you just fucking show up and you're gonna keep getting better.
It's all great.
Yeah, it's all you're just gonna get better by the repetitions. But at a certain point, you have a set game. You like kind of have like set pathways that you're continuing to go to. And for me, it becomes less obvious of like what exactly I need to do to get better. And people talk about all the time, like you can show up in Bojada for an hour and a half and doesn't mean you maybe got a great workout, but you didn't do any problem solving. Maybe you didn't get better in any specific thing. What do you think the solution is there? Is it like specifics? Like you said, I'm showing up, I'm working on my wrestling, so I'm only wrestling for this set of time, or how do you solve that?
I think the biggest issue is that we're not taught how to troubleshoot our own situation. So like you said, when we show up, white belt, you're just happy to be there. This is the greatest thing you've ever done. Yeah. You're literally high for the first year on jiu-jitsu. Everything's wonderful. You got submitted 37 times. It's the best day ever. But what it teaches you is show up. We're doing armbar from guard. Let's do it. Great. Next time you show up, you're doing a half guard pass. Another time you show up, you're doing a takedown. You have no idea why you're doing the specific. Why am I fishing for an underhook? Why am I holding this grip? You just hold this, push this, do this. This is how we do it. And this move exists in a vacuum of this is the move. And yes, we're chaining a counter off of it, but how did I get to that move? Why did I get to that move? And then what do I do when he does this and when he counters this? And all these sort of exist in a vacuum. And I used to be very critical of it, but the more you teach and you see that, well, you need to run a gym and you need to bring in money and on any given day, I have 5 white belts, a blue belt, and a guy who's been training for 37 years.
Yeah.
But, we don't know what belt he is. And so you can't really manage that in a meaningful way a lot of times because you don't know who's showing up. You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So that's how you end up teaching. But if I think one of the biggest advances that Danaher brought in the systems, why all this was like, enter the system, enter this.
Yeah.
If we view the back as a system, how to break down turtle, how to get to the back, how to finish, back triangles, arm bars as a system to where we know based on their reaction what becomes available, how to counter it, and we know all the ins and outs and how to get from A and skip to G, and when they do this, we go over here, we do this. Now you start to be able to problem solve yourself. You understand, like, when they do this, I need to do this, and your brain is engaged rather than just like, when I get the back, I try and choke. If it doesn't work, I don't know. I don't really have an option.
Yeah.
Or I'm not paying attention. What are they doing? When I'm doing this, this is the way they're defending. How can I counter that? And that engages your brain, and now you become a thinker and a problem solver. And so that now you can take a situation and they say, well, they keep bringing this leg over. Okay, well, I can probably leg drag off of that rather than just keep doing the same pass I was doing. And then you start to take ownership of your training where you start to be able to see the problems and say, okay, well, every time I get to half guard against regular people, I can sweep them, I can do this. But against a good person, they keep doing this. So if I just keep doing the same thing and harder and meaner, it's like, well, yeah. Or I can try and see, why do I keep getting shut down? How is this a problem? And then kind of go from there. So it becomes more of your training becomes part of you and you problem solve. And then when you run into issues, you can go to someone who knows and say, every time I do this, this happens. What do you think? What should I do from here? And then you can start to work it. But overall, I think specifics are obviously the key to everything. It's just people don't like to do it. It's just too hard. It's and not fun.
It's monotonous.
It's monotonous, and if generally you're exerting a lot of effort because somebody's already in a favorable position, the other person's in a not favorable position. So now it's just hard. It's just hard because the person doesn't want to get arm barred, so they're fighting for as hard. And
you kind of know what each other are going for too.
And I'm already in a dominant position. Say I'm starting an arm bar, so it's embarrassing if I don't finish. Like, bro, I started in an arm bar. Like, I should finish this. So now, like, my ego's up, their ego's up because they don't want to get submitted. We're going as hard as we can, and that's why I think, if you're good training partners and we're playing and we're learning, and it's like, okay, well, how can I do this efficiently, and how can I do this with technique rather than just grip it and rip it and so I win because I want to win, because we all want to win. But if we can do it fun and you're actively trying to help me get better, and you're saying, well, when you peel my hands, that's really effective. That actually makes it really hard. When you fall back early and bring me up on top, that's actually
helping me.
That's helping. So I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So if you're actually have a vested interest in me getting better, and you're telling me what's effective and what's not, and I'm working with you, and you also know that I'm not going to rip your arm off.
Yeah.
And so you're like, all right, let's do this. Like, let's get you better at this.
Yeah.
And then when it's my turn, like, that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to tell you, or we're doing chokes, and I'm like, no, you didn't close off this carotid. Like, get a little tighter. Get this. Do this. Now we start to get better. We start to get better.
That's a good way for sure. That's one thing that I've found out is super helpful anytime I'm drilling, is like, if we can sort of have a conversation about it, of like, tell me what I did good there, tell me what wasn't good, and like, so there's real-time feedback of each of this. But sort of like to the first thing that you said, so are you kind of saying that like not only just drilling techniques, but I guess like just being more conscious of like, what are the responses to the techniques, and having responses to the responses?
Right. My favorite concept overall is that I can't be stronger than you or faster than you. Just I'm older and weak. But what I can do is create predictable responses in everything. So when we get taught setups in wrestling, all that means is I'm trying to create a movement that you have a predictable response to every time. And of that response, or let's say you have two choices, you could do A or you could do B. In that, I will have previously thought, what is the highest percentage, most efficient answer to that? When you do this, I will do this. So now, before I even go for that arm drag, I know I'm going to arm drag. You're either going to pull back hard, in which case your legs are going to be open, or you're going to go with it, in which case your back's going to be open, and I'm ready.
Yeah.
And that way it makes it kind of look like I'm faster than I am. It's just because my brain's already computed my response.
What the next thing is, rather than doing it and then waiting and then
and see
reacting.
what happens.
Yeah, it's like I know you have to do one of two things, and I've got responses for each of these.
Right. And that's what, like, for example, if you're in guard and I tip you to one side, I know you have two choices. You can either post or you can fall on your face. Most people are going to post. So once you post, I can now get an under. I can now get an overhook. I can get that shoulder clinch series going. I can do that because I know you're probably going to post. Or if I snap your head down, you're probably going to pull it up. So a lot of times you see people doing stuff from guard, and you're like, well, what are you even trying to hope for to happen? And they're just sort of doing stuff in hopes the person makes a mistake. And I think that's problematic, because when you go against people who don't necessarily make mistakes, you're like, oh, I didn't have an answer for that.
For sure. Yeah, exactly.
But if you have a way to create a specific response, if I take a bad shot on you, all my shots are bad, but if I take a shot on you, I know you're going to either, sort of sprawl or turn away and kick out. So those are your two options on a single leg, let's say. And so it's like, okay, well, if he does that, I'll do this. If he does that, I'll do this. And then so I can kind of know, and then I can get into those pathways where you're like, okay, now I'm into my game. I know how to go from here. So that's, I think, helpful. And it's sort of like what you see people doing stand-up, especially because in jiu-jitsu we're not that great at it, is that just collar ties. It's like, oh, well, what are you hoping? Like, I know when I do stand-up to this day, sometimes you're doing it simply because you've seen other people do it. You're like, I don't want to look like an idiot, so I'm going to collar it. But like,
people say guard pulling is gay, so
right, I can't do
that.
Or maybe I can do it extra hard, depending on where we're going. But if we're just like, you see people like just grab an elbow and a collar tie, and then we're just pulling. Well, likely you're never going to just
pull them all the way down.
Pull them into the ground. So what were you hoping? And most of the time I find that they're hoping the other person shoots is literally all it is. Like, I'm just going to keep pulling and keep slapping because I don't really know what to do and I don't have any ability to shoot. So I'm just hoping he shoots.
That's not a good game.
That's not a great game. But that's why you get people dancing around for 6 minutes. Just collar tie, collar tie, collar tie. But if you have things that you can do to create angles or create reactions and be like, okay, well, every time I feint this, his reaction is to back up. Okay, so he's not much of a sprawler. He's a runaway. Okay, well, so now I can blast double that, like, because that's his style. He's gonna go back, but I can close distance faster than he can back up. So now a blast double because he's standing up. If he stays in the pocket and he's like ready to sprawl and he just down blocks and brings his leg back. Okay, well now I can snap that down, because if he brings a leg back, that was his post, he's more susceptible to snap down. So I can look and read people's reactions and say, okay, well, I hit that arm drag one time and he pulled out really well and got rid of his arm and stood up. And I'm like, okay, so if I do that again, he's probably gonna do the same reaction. Now his legs are open, I can attack that. So, being able to read reactions and then create predictable responses, I think makes you a lot more dangerous.
It's an interesting thing. It's like something I gotta pay more attention to, for sure.
Yeah, it's useful. It's just you have to have all the pieces, because if you're like, well, I noticed he does this, but I have no idea what that means. Like, that doesn't help you.
You don't have any good techniques to respond to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's me, because it's like a lot of times, let's say if I get in on quarter guard or a half guard and their response is to kind of get up and run away, it's like, okay, awesome. So I could come up in a single, oh, I can't wrestle. So that's on me. And I can be like, well, I can get to a single leg. I can't finish a single leg. So I need to work on that or just continue to suck at that situation. But usually we have things that we're good at and we want to only do those. So we're like, well, when the guy does this reaction, I'm really good. I can get this. I can enter the legs. I can heel hook him. I'm really good. When he's a wrestler and he stands up and runs away, like, I don't have an answer.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why you see people get into that like plateau situation where they're like, you see them win by leg entanglement, just win. And then they get to a position where people don't have to give them the response they're used to.
Yeah.
And then they're, I
don't know what to do from here.
I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer.
So when did you first get into jiu-jitsu?
I was 30. I, like most people, thought at some point I would fight.
Oh, really? You thought you were going to get into MMA?
Yeah. Well, I've always, I'm old enough that I could watch like the original UFCs when they came out. So I was
like, I'm going to do that one day.
Yeah, exactly. And so I tell people the story of when I, back on university and the 101, there used to be Barusa Academy, and that was like kind of the place back in the day. And I would drive by as an adult and be like, when I can afford $60 a month, wow, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go in there. And it just never was. And then the first place I started was at a Taekwondo academy that decided to offer jiu-jitsu. And
How old were you then?
30.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So
and this was the first experience of martial arts at all.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And he one day was showing, it was like in the second week or something, was showing, trying to show a guillotine or a triangle, and he called it a guillotine, and I was like, I might not be in the right place. this may not be the place for me.
You're like, I don't know too much, but
I feel like I might know this is not the one. Although, super flexible guys though in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
They're in shape. And then I went to a 10th Planet, Phoenix and Chandler, and then a couple places. And here we are.
Wow, nice. So what year was that when you're doing Taekwondo? Or
15 years ago.
15 years ago. Wow. So like around 2010-ish, maybe 2009?
Yeah.
Huh, wow. That's crazy that there was that, like, I mean, you would think right now that would be like fucking blasted on McDojo if someone saw that or something.
Well, to be fair, it was also in Maricopa, so that's also my fault just for living in
That is your fault for living over there.
Fault, so take
That's
that
funny.
with a grain of salt.
Wow, so you got into 10th Planet Phoenix, and then at some point started training at ACS?
Yes, in between, I was at with Santino DeFranco. He is the coach over at Siege and Fight Ready with those guys. He had a gym in Chandler, and then he decided to go back to school up in Flagstaff, so he closed it. So then at that point, I needed a different gym, and I met Issa over at Arizona Combat Sports.
Oh, wow. How cool.
He was a purple belt. And,
Nice.
Yep. He's frustratingly hard to roll with to this day.
To this day, for
this
sure.
day.
Yeah, he's a problem.
Yeah.
Dude, he had a killer performance over this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, I
thought
was
it
super excited
great.
about that.
Really good. Yes, I think it's the first of many if he's able to keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Not first of many. That's a stupid thing to say, but one of many.
Yeah, one of many. Yeah, obviously he's had a lot of competition success, but I think part of it's maybe getting in the right weight class too. I think for the past couple of years he's been competing at a heavier weight class, just because of running a business and whatnot. But now took the diet a little bit more seriously in preparation, and I think that has a big thing to do with it. Because I mean, I could tell the difference. Every ADCC I've done has been the 76 kilo, and I thought going into it, I'm like, I'm gonna be big for this because like I thought like I normally walk around like mid 180s or something, weighing in 168, and I'm like, I'm gonna be big. I'm like, okay, these people are about my size, and then for this one, I guess I guess being kind of a fucking idiot. I'm like, I weighed in 182, the 83 kilos or whatever. I'm like, okay, there's still gonna be people around my size. Everyone's considerably bigger than me into this. Even my first match, I was like, wow, this is a big guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I think it's just ADCC, people take it very seriously, the vast majority of people. and it's day before weigh-in, so
Yes.
you can do a little bit of a water cut. And for me too, it's like making that 168 isn't that tough. It's just like I have to keep a strict diet and preparation. My body naturally gets into the low 170s, and then I can do a hot yoga or something and make 168 pretty easily. So anyone who can make that weight, and if you were doing MMA, I probably would be at 155 or less.
Exactly.
And so, and it's still, that's the same thing a day before weigh-in. So anyone who's taking it that seriously is going to do a weight class that's in line with that. So
Yes, and I think at this point, when prestige and money actually exist, which ADCC Open, if you win it, like people actually care.
Yeah.
People are shooting like actual highlight videos and putting stuff up.
Yeah.
And so I think the easiest way to think of it is 20 pounds is realistic for some people. If they're walking around at 180, they'll make it to 160.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so if you're not willing to do that,
you're going to be going against bigger people.
yeah. Well, I think at this point,
Maybe stay out.
Yes. Why are we paying $150?
Yeah.
Because, the guy that Issa went against is literally traveled from Florida. They had a whole team.
Yeah.
They all had his name on their shirts.
For sure.
He does this. He goes to all the opens.
Yeah.
And this
So
is his job.
did you hear about that? So I didn't know until a guy at our gym, John, told me about it. They brought a team of 40 out here from Florida, 40 people that said that I guess just trying to come over here and made all these videos about, I don't know, all this stuff about, just fucking traveling and competing.
Exactly. Yeah. When I watched a couple opens ago, when they did a highlight on him, like his dad, I think either was out of work or quit his job literally to do this for his kids. Because I think he has a younger brother as well. I saw that had the same last name and one nonstop submitted everybody. So that's the level that you're going. It's not every person in your bracket. There was a person that, when I saw, I just told he said, just do whatever you want. Like this is not an issue. He submitted him in like a minute. But your brackets, there were like 4 high level people. Like the semifinals on were people all that train professionally. This is their job.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
Not that they own. And that's the other distinction. It used to be in order to do well ADCC, you had to have a gym because that allowed you to train.
Yeah.
Now, almost you can't have a gym. You have to, this has to be your life.
Exactly.
We lift, we train. You're a narcissist all about yourself. It has to be about you full time.
Yeah, because actually owning a gym takes away from your own personal training. Especially at the beginning, you open up a gym, it's all white belts. You're not getting high level training. You've got to focus on the business. Your attention has to be a lot in other places other than your own personal training. So these people who are doing it full time, maybe they've got another job or something, or maybe, their girlfriend supports them doing whatever. I think that's literally one of the guys in my bracket. Like he just trains full time and his girl works, and that's what they do.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, and even just like I was talking about, if you want to be good at something, you have to do it. So you would have to, this can't just be your only tournament. You would have probably had to compete it 6 times already this year.
Yeah. At least.
And so you figure, just an easy $1,000 per tournament if you're traveling and hotel and everything. So now
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, just for that competition, let alone you needed to be training full time and getting your rehab in and your recovery and everything.
For sure, and all of that costs money too.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. That I think that the days of the hobbyists just sort of rocking up and doing really well are, I think, quickly disappearing.
For sure. The level of competition is just getting so high level. Like, it's crazy. I even think about it even within our own gym. Our Luke, who you saw probably over the weekend, I mean, he's been training like as long as me or longer. He just got his purple belt, but he's like 18 years old. He's been training since or maybe he's 19 now. He's been training since he was like 10. So he's literally trained longer than me, and he's just barely a purple belt. There's plenty of kids who have been like training jiu-jitsu since they were 3 or 4 years old. By the time they're an adult, they have like 14, 15 years of experience and barely don't even have their man muscles yet.
Right.
So like that's the next generation that's coming up into it.
Right. And now, because jiu-jitsu realized that wrestling's real, they've come up also wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the problem, is that like you can't just, I'll just get on top and stand. No, they'll put you on the bottom and then they'll pass your guard, then they'll choke you.
Yes.
And so you don't have sort of these ways out where you're like, oh, well, I'll just like leg lock. No, they've been leg locking since they were 11. They know what that is. And when you had to make it, you graduated kids class and now you got stuck with the adults at say 13, 14. So now they've been used to being the smallest person. So
for sure,
you being strong, that's nothing.
Doesn't
new.
mean that much either.
Yeah. They were built that way.
Yeah.
So. And then they accidentally hit puberty, and
yeah.
So.
And then some of them, on top of that, start fucking getting on the sauce at like a young age too.
Yeah.
So it's
out
crazy.
Yeah. So that's why if you see the 13 or 14, you befriend them.
Yeah.
Because soon you won't have a choice.
Yeah.
You don't want payback.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not gonna go well.
Yeah. It's incredible seeing that.
Yeah. It's I do question though if you're putting all your eggs in the jiu-jitsu basket as a sort of a parent and you're like, this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. And I would say, well, to what end? Like where are you going with that? If let's say you're sacrificing what might be considered their childhood or fun and experiences because really, unless you're going to release Gordon Ryan levels of instructionals, there's no big money in jiu-jitsu. Like maybe you'll open a gym and maybe it'll do well, or maybe it will go under. But if there's no schooling, no people skills, no ability to function in society because you were just always on the mats full time, homeschooled, everything. That's a choice.
Yeah,
that's a choice.
Who knows where the future of the sport will be? Like maybe there is more opportunity that opens up later. I think even for the guys that like are currently adults that are being subsidized by their girlfriends or families or whatever to train right now, I think they're really just betting on the follow your heart and the money will follow type thing.
Sure.
Because like I don't know what's gonna happen, but I mean like one thing I'm really interested to see how this plays out this year is the BDCC.
Yes.
Have you been following that?
He just posted on Reddit, Greg Jones, that my favorite is that he's used the Sprite logo and it's Spite Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
And it's at the Mac Center, which is where they had ADCC last year. That's where his tournament is. And it's like just down the street from where ADCC is.
Really?
On the same weekend.
Yeah, on the same night, right? Yeah, our same weekend, over 2 days or so.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
It's
and also too, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like what he's been saying is that like if you win ADCC, you get $10,000, right? And so he's paying you $10,001 just to show up. And then $1 million if you win the competition.
Right.
I mean, even if you're the highest level grappler in the world right now, you really have a great chance of winning whatever weight class you are.
Yep.
Are you gonna do it for $10,000 to have a ADCC title under your belt? Or are you gonna say, fuck it, I could win $1 million and maybe have lesser competition?
Exactly.
Potentially.
That's the thing. It's because literally nobody. If you get. Can you name the bronze medalists from 2 ADCCs ago? No, there's no chance.
Yeah.
So and typically, all of us who've been around when brackets released, you kind of know who the finals are going to be.
Yeah.
For most years, you're like, I know how this is going to go because these guys have already gone against each other. They kind of already know where they're at.
Yeah.
Nobody really comes from nowhere and wins it. They could come from nowhere and then lose in the semis.
Yeah.
But to come from nowhere and win it doesn't really happen.
Yeah, very unlikely.
So if you're that guy who, whatever it is, always loses to Gordon Ryan, you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I can get a guaranteed $10,000.
Yeah.
Today just for showing up and maybe
win. Probably have a better chance at winning.
Right.
Yeah, in all likeliness have a better chance.
Right.
And then apparently Mo is sending out like contracts with like penalties if you back out now. Never done it before.
Right.
So he's obviously getting a little scared.
Yes. Yeah, well, he knows that at the end of the day, money talks.
And it's not like he's saying, hey, $10,000 for this or $20,000 for me. He's saying $10,000 a show. What you would make if you win first place and $1 million if you fucking win.
Right.
That's no joke of money.
Right.
That's more than most MMA fighters make as champions.
Right.
Dedicate their entire career at the highest level. Very few guys make $1 million in a night.
No.
Very, very few.
Very, very few.
Some guys that, legends in our sport never made $1 million in a night.
Yeah, and even the fighters now, I think, still are on less than 10K to win, 10K to show, 10K to win.
Yeah.
For the UFC.
A lot of them.
contracts.
Yeah. I think that's probably the bulk
beginning.
of the roster. Yeah.
So
Obviously, at the highest levels, I think those guys are making more money.
Yeah,
And
a
I think even at the, I think like for instance, Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje, this last one, I think they each won a couple million
Right,
bucks.
yeah.
So it's getting better.
Yeah, well, on pay-per-view makes a big difference. But
For
if
sure.
if you're on where they're at the performance center and they're just fighting in front of
Yeah.
nobody, you're not making very much.
Yeah, exactly.
And you had to do a full camp, and you had to give 30%.
Yes.
And I have a sneaky suspicion that I don't know if they're going to exactly be taxed on this 10K. So,
Yeah.
if you were doing that with UFC, you'd have to make 20K to get that 10K.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
it's a good amount of money.
And also, too, I'm bringing up the handful of fighters that are in the top echelon of the entire company, a multi-billion-dollar company, that are making what Craig is offering. Just
And he doesn't even have. He literally is putting out like send me the top 16 under 80 kilos and above 80. So it's not
Yeah.
even. He's not even set. Like anyone, Adrian could be in it.
yeah, right, yeah,
So, and I wonder if too, just because of the way that interpersonal relationships work, if you are with him on this one, when this one's tough, because technically you don't really know if this is even going to happen.
No.
Ain't nobody got paid for this yet. You
Yeah.
don't know if these checks are good. Like
For
we don't
sure.
know anything. So you take that leap and you come to maybe it doesn't go well for you. Maybe you're not great, but maybe you get to do that again next time.
yeah.
And
There
get
you
another
go.
10 grand.
Yeah, maybe if he continues to go, and then you get an automatic invite or
Right,
something. Yeah,
right.
but I think this one is probably one of the bigger tests of if it's going to happen,
Right.
because the Mo brought up this last year that this last ADCC they lost or 2 years ago, whatever, they lost a ton of money doing it, and it looked like probably the greatest grappling night in jiu-jitsu history. So from the spectator's point of view, it's like, wow, this must have been crazy successful.
Right.
They lost money doing that. So Craig Jones, he's got to have some sort of sponsor that's like helping
Yeah,
us out. But at the end of the day, it's got to be profitable. So if he pays out over $1 million and doesn't make that much back, unless he just has some oil chic or something,
Right. Which I think it's got to be.
it's probably
It's
something
gotta
like
be
that.
something like that.
Yeah.
With just crazy money.
Something, yeah. But at the end of the day, there's only so much of those that can go on, unless the guy's just willing to do it out of the goodness of his heart. But
Right.
that's less likely. I think usually the long-term success, it's got to be profitable for everyone.
My thought being that they're essentially taking work from the corporate world where you go in, you do whatever it takes to get your market share, and then you basically kill your competition. And from then on, now we become profitable 5 years from now or something.
Yeah.
It's got to be my thought, because just somebody willing to do a one-off where they're literally setting fire to $1 million,
Yeah.
that's hard to find. But if you could convince someone that say, look, ADCC is really the only no-gi thing that anyone cares about.
Yeah.
So that's impressive. If you can take a whole, several million active people that care about no-gi jiu-jitsu, and there's only one tournament that people
Yeah.
care about, and you can control that.
Divert their attention to this one.
Yeah, and if you can own that, I would believe they think that there's a money-making, profitable
Yeah.
opportunity later.
What a move, though, to
Yeah.
do it on the same day and everything, to really just
not
not
only
say there's
that-
room for both of us to say, hey,
Right.
fuck you.
Right.
We're taking over.
And to also do it, but without much. Like if he had been announcing this for a year and a half before, and he had been like getting people some commitments, and
Yeah.
some people being like, yeah, let's say he got Felipe Pena and a few good
Big names, yeah.
Maybe he didn't get the biggest, but he got some, and then other people are like, oh, okay, these people are attached to it. I'll go too. We'll
Yeah.
do it. 6 months ago, there was a full bracket. There was all this, but as of today, there's 0 people attached to it.
Yeah.
Besides Craig.
Yeah.
And so that's bold.
Really interesting.
That's bold.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. What would be crazy is if it was some kind of really long con game to just kick ADCC in the pants to like get them to do like.
Oh, like all of it's trolling, like that
A little
video
bit,
is like
yeah.
he didn't rent it at all. He's just
because basically what has he really put into it besides just random posts? Like
Yeah.
nothing there's no website, there's nothing. So, he could at any moment just be like, hey, I came to an agreement with ADCC. This is what we're going to do. And everyone's getting, or the winners are getting $100K for each division. Or something like that. Just sort of forcing their hand a little.
Maybe. That could be
I
it
don't
too.
think so, but I think that would be an amazing troll job to just.
It could be.
Yeah.
It seems like he's really operating independently though too.
Yes.
He posted a picture of Mo and said, a cheeky caption or something too.
Yeah.
And then Mo commented back saying, hey, we were supposed to have a phone call. What's going on? Let's get on the phone or something. So it seems like there's some legitimacy there.
Yes. Yeah. They definitely had a falling out. And I think the difference from Craig is that his sort of who he believes himself to be is not tied up in his jiu-jitsu, whereas most people, that is their whole identity. And so for him, he's like, yeah, I'm probably not going to be the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm still a human being,
Yeah.
and I still have fun, and I do what I want.
Yeah, he's really leaned into that.
Yes.
It's honestly, he's like a great marketer.
Right.
Yeah, because he's found like, I think the biggest thing with all of that is finding like an honest expression of yourself. I feel like when people really force it or try to be something, it's so obvious. And he's really found like, well, for one, he got second place like a couple times. And so he just
That's
second
all we're
place at
talking about
everything.
now.
Yeah. B team, BDCC, he like really leaned into that hard. And he's just real funny the way he does it. And it has a real good way of marketing. So
I think it's a good lesson that what's sustainable over time. If your whole personality is I have to be the best, and that's what my market is, I'm the greatest, I'm the best.
yeah.
For how long? And everybody is waiting for any mistake. Anytime you pull out due to an injury, anytime you don't make weight, anytime you thought you were going to submit the person, but you didn't submit the person. And so now every time you open yourself up to criticism, and the times that you succeed, it's like, well, yeah, but that's what you've been talking about for 5 years is you're the greatest. And you're the best. So we don't really care when you win anymore.
Exactly.
But if you do something that's sustainable, which is I'm hilarious. And I just like don't take this serious. And these guys take this so seriously. Like this is a real tough guy competition, and I'm not doing that. Well, you can do that forever.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
even when he's not even competing, which I don't know if he's ever going to compete again.
Yeah.
But you can be hilarious and troll people forever for the next 50
infinitely.
years.
Yeah.
You can't be the greatest of all time forever because someone's going to beat you, and then every time that you try and come on again, they're going to be like, well, remember when you lost? Or if he tries to quit early, like kind of like the Hoffa Mendes route, it's like, well, yeah, the moment that you thought you were going to lose, you quit.
Yeah.
And so we don't care about you anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's sort of it's not sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. He found like that route that like sort of transcends the sport. It's a tough route to find.
Yes.
It's not like it's obvious, and you gotta really have like lean into what really works. And I think he is sort of a naturally funny guy.
Right.
Naturally, like like he said it once in an early interview, it's like whoever gets mad first loses. Is like they'd always be ragging on each other, and the person that gets mad is the one that loses.
Right.
So it's like it's always a level of we're not taking it serious, really joking around, and he's just leaned into that and found out a way to like market it and be funny with it.
Yeah, and I think that's useful. I think it's useful for all businesses. People love humor.
Yeah.
They love you to not do the corporate answer.
Yeah.
It's a PC answer.
For sure.
Everything has got to be buttoned up and professional, and have your media training, and we can only say, may the best man win, and I hope hope I just went out there and did my best. It's like, no one wants to hear that.
No, not at all. Yeah, that's a good point too, because I'll go to a lot of like real estate state of the market type meetings and like real professional meetings. The best public speakers are the ones that are always lacing in some comedy in there. The ones that aren't just and like the trends are going around. It's like if you can lace in some jokes here and there, those are the best public speakers, and they're the ones that like actually teach you because you're really engaged throughout.
And you remember it.
Yeah, you do. Like there's this guy, Elliot Pollock, who's like the top economist in Arizona. Economist.
Yeah, those guys too.
Economist in Arizona, like one of the best in the United States. Like he goes around giving speeches in the all over in the U.S., but he's real top in Arizona. owns a lot of real estate too in Arizona too, and he gives speeches. He hasn't done it in a while, but he would do one annually every year, and he is fucking funny too. Like he is constantly peppering in some comedy. He gives this whole like PowerPoint thing, and it's basically every third slide is a joke.
Just memes.
Yeah, literal memes. And so it's he does great. He'll have a crowd of 1,000 people laughing while also learning, and it's the best way to do it.
I think it shows also subconsciously your confidence, and people love confidence. If I'm so uptight and worried that people won't think I'm legitimate or people won't like what I'm saying, that I have to just stick to, these are the percentage downturn in the market and this is what we see going forward because I'm just so worried. You can tell, like, I don't have any confidence in what I'm saying. I just have to read you these numbers.
Yeah.
But if I can come in and be like, guys, we're screwed. The market's going to crash. It's like, okay, this guy, he knows what's going on. He knows where
exactly.
this is.
He's like, you have it so down packed that you're not attached to your slides.
Right.
You can, go off of it. You can make a little joke, come back.
And this is what I do. This is who I am, rather than this is what I'm reading.
Exactly.
And I just prepared this, and I just better read this.
Yeah.
And people just like to laugh.
Yeah,
People
it's great. I love to laugh.
Yeah. I've seen some good guys on TikTok doing house tours, which nobody really wants to, unless it's like a $50 million. No one wants to see a $400,000 tract house.
Yeah.
But the guys are going in and just like making jokes about, like, kind of almost running down parts that I was like, what? I don't even know what you would do in here. And you're like, oh, this is funny. Like, because we all know, like, if you're shopping, you know what you can afford.
Yeah.
And for most of us, it's not a mansion. We already know what we're gonna do. So, like, let's have some fun. Let's like look at it. It's like the guy selling his 99 Corolla and is like, do you want something with absolutely no frills and no creature comforts and amenities? Like, I got the car for you. And it's like, okay, all right, this is funny.
Exactly.
This is funny.
Yeah. There's some other guys on TikTok who do something similar with cars that it's like, I think it's like shitbox something is what they call it. There's some Canadian guys, and they like they'll call you on your Facebook listing of your 97 Corolla, and you're like, so what do you want for this shitbox? Nice. You want a 12 pack of beers, and what else can I get?
Can buy Taco Bell and get you something. Yeah,
they're hilarious with it too.
Yeah, and that's what people like, and then it'll engage people, and that's what you want. You want engagement. That's you want eyeballs. You want people paying attention, and that's the way to get it. So I think he's done well, but he also puts out good content. His actual jiu-jitsu is good. That helps a lot.
That helps for sure.
Just being a funny guy who gets obliterated in the first round, and like nobody wants to really learn from that.
For sure.
But we had good B team guys at ADCC Open there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They were good.
Yeah. So what do you do for work?
I am a construction manager for a company that builds EV charging sites. So if Electrify America or Tesla or Rivian wants to build a site in your local Walmart parking lot, they hire us.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wow. So, I thought you were doing demolition for a while.
Yes, for 12 years I was doing estimating and project managing for demolition. So any of the widening projects on the I-10 that's still going on, and the 101, or some of the work at ASU, did that. Wow. It's all mechanical, not really a lot of blowing stuff up. That's frowned upon.
You don't like blowing stuff up?
I would like to. But people complain when you do.
Wow. Huh. So what was the reason for the transition?
Well, it was at a family business, not my family, but and just was going to kind of be, that was all I was ever going to do there. And so this kind of provided a different opportunity. Also, I didn't quite realize it at the time, but sort of remote work or hybrid work is also pretty awesome. So a lot of times I'm at home.
Oh, nice.
Which is kind of why I'm able to be here this time. And there's more travel. Like I go to Oregon and California and Washington, Nevada, but a lot of times I'm just here. And sometimes I can do a 6:30 training or a noon training, or
got a little bit of flexibility that way.
Yeah. So that's been really nice.
And so you build EV charging stations now?
Correct. Yeah. So it's not very sexy when you're like, let's go see, and it's just, you go to a Walmart parking lot and there's like 5 chargers sitting there, and you're like, yep, that's it.
Those are the
That's
ones.
the one. See,
Nice.
they can plug their car in. That's awesome.
Nice.
But on the other hand, it is a sort of in-demand thing at this time. People tend to be buying EVs, and they want to be able to charge them for some strange reasons. So that's gone well.
So have you been in construction your whole life to some capacity?
For a lot of it, yeah. I've been doing this for a while. I was actually sort of out in the trenches, digging the trenches in the 120-degree heat, and that's less fun.
Yeah.
It's less fun. I like in the office, in the pickup, driving around. That's a little
That's
bit better.
nice.
That's
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
How were you able to move out of the heat and get into the office?
Because I'm not great at operating equipment, and I do have some skills with numbers and people and relationships and helping things go well, and I can actually act professional, whereas sometimes the typical blue collar person struggles in a professional environment and
Interesting.
biting your tongue and
Yeah.
not telling people they're idiots.
Yeah. And you're clearly an intelligent person too. You
I can
tell.
fake it. I can fake it.
Yeah, you could tell just from your jujitsu. And then, like, I know when you were doing demolition, I had something way out west that we were going to demo the building on, and I asked you about it, and like your response was very detailed. You could tell just like your approach to whatever it is. Like, I guess it's your approach to life is like how you do a lot of things, because in jiu-jitsu, you're very detail orientated, you're very articulate. And in this like one inquiry I had with you in a business relationship, you were super on point. You were very detailed. You were very helpful, a pleasure to work with. And
Thank you.
Yeah, and it was just a small interaction. So I thought that was really interesting.
Thank you. Well, I think the only thing, because I'm not great at, say, reading a lot of, books or something, I think the little bit of difference, I try to think through the why. Why is this necessary? Why do we do this? Is there a better way? When it comes to parenting, all those sort of things is the only reason that we're doing this is because that's how everybody else does it, or that's how it's always been done. And I have a problem with that sort of mentality. Or, sort of my rule for creating rules is, if you're telling your kids, because I said so, that's a terrible reason.
Yeah.
That's if it comes down to that, that's a terrible reason. If you have to say, like, because that's the only way, it's like, no, there's literally never that's the only way. And so if you're always trying to think through like
The whys.
and is there a better way? And I've told a lot of people that the beauty of jiu-jitsu is you learn that there is an efficient way to do this, or there's a technique and to do it, and you can learn it from somebody. And then you find out that there's somebody who knows more, and there's an even better way to do it. And you're like, oh, that would have been useful to know. I would have liked to know that 10 years ago. Like, that would have been a good way to maintain mount or this.
Yeah.
And that applies to everything. Like, there's literally nothing that someone isn't doing as a profession. So if you're putting in carpet, like, you can put in carpet, like, you can go. But there's somebody who does that every day who's very good at it. And if you can learn from them, you're going to be better out. You could figure it out. You could definitely just like make it happen, but there's somebody who does that better than you. And they can show you. And that applies to every aspect of life. There's somebody who gets paid to do it. And by, as a result of getting paid to do it, they're more efficient, they're more skilled, they're more knowledgeable. So, you can, for real estate, I'm sure you see it, that there's anybody can buy and sell real estate, literally anybody, but there's people who are very good at it. And you could take 20 years to accumulate that knowledge, or you could just learn directly from them.
Exactly. You read a book.
I could learn it in 6 months or 6 years. Like, it's up to you. And you find sales. Like, I'm terrible at sales, but I understand I understand why I'm terrible at sales. And I look at Trevor Smith at Arizona Combat Sports, and basically quadrupling the number of people coming in by actually treating it like you would do sales. Like, okay, find out why the person's interested. Find out when they can come. Find out their situation. Find out what obstacles would prevent them from coming, find out, like what's their reasoning and their everything, and then try to address it and try and help them and try and create something that actually adds value to their life and, create those connections, rather than what I would do is come and take a trial class. Hey, did you have fun?
Yeah.
All right, let me know if you have any questions. That would be, if I was sort of selling, that would be it.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, that's not effective.
It's not the best way.
It's not the best way. But, if you want to sell, there are professionals that sell. If you want to change, the thermostat on your car, there's professionals that do that, and you can learn from them.
For sure. Yeah. Always better you can always develop your skills in a number of different ways.
Yeah, and I think you just learning how to do that is a skill. Learning how to learning the steps of this is going to suck. That just because you're good at jiu-jitsu doesn't mean that you're a good boyfriend. It doesn't mean you're a good parent. It doesn't mean you're a good student. It's like, okay, I have to learn that I'm going to suck, and then I'm going to get better, and then there's going to be a chance that I get competent, and then I just stop. Or I could keep learning, and I could keep trying, I could keep getting better, and I could keep self-assessing and figuring out, okay, this was good, but this was poor, and I can improve, and then, getting better. Or, you can just do what most of us do, which is just be like, well, I did the best I can.
Yeah.
And I think that's I understand why it exists, because it helps us feel better. It's self-soothing, but really, if you're honest, is there anything in your life that you've tried to do that you literally did the very best you possibly could?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
You're saying you couldn't have woken up that day at 5 a.m. and gotten a run in? Like it was impossible?
Yeah.
No, probably not.
Probably not.
You couldn't have spent extra time studying for that test or paying more attention or writing your notes out better. Not really.
Yeah.
And so I think being honest with yourself and saying, I could have done better, and here's how I'm going to do better. And I'm going to keep learning, keep working on it.
Yeah, my buddy Patrick Ortman said something to me that's like stuck with me since he said it, is that better has no end. If you do better at like you're, okay, you want to get healthier, you start working out. Okay, well, you can now dial in the diet. Oh, you're dialing in the diet? Okay, well, now you can start, getting better sleep. Got better sleep? Okay, now you can cut out sweets and alcohol. Okay, you do that. Well, now you can also take supplements. You can, better has no end.
Right.
You could apply that to literally anything. You can always get better and better, and no matter what, there's probably something else you could be doing on top of it.
And there is,
Yeah.
and that. But to find the joy in the getting, if it's always, I want to get better so that I can win this tournament. Well, now that's a very binary yes, no. Did I win? Did I not?
Yeah.
If you did win, okay, good. You achieved the goal, but then what? Then what?
Yeah.
Does that mean if you lose the next one, you're a failure?
Yeah.
That's a tough way it's a tough metric to work, and you can't always control how that goes.
Yeah.
And if you didn't win, does that mean you should just quit?
Yeah.
Because you set that as the goal and you didn't achieve the goal.
Didn't get it.
So, but if it was just improve, get better, am I better at takedowns now than I was 6 months ago? Yes. Okay. Can I still get better? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I could keep going. And then it's not as dependent on external results and external factors. Like, did I enter the tournament and the reigning world number one also enter the tournament? And so, I'm probably not going to win. Like, it's probably not going to work. But I could get better. I can get better, and I can get better. And then my sense of self-satisfaction and who I am is not tied to external things.
Yeah.
And when you get older and you're not as strong, or you decide to do other things, maybe you need to move and focus on your job, you want to go back to school, you have kids, you're like, okay, well, but am I still learning? Am I still progressing? Because that was the goal.
Yeah.
That was the goal. Winning wasn't the goal. Being the best wasn't the goal.
Yeah.
Getting better was the goal.
For sure.
And so, am I getting better? Yeah, I am. And so they could work that way.
Yeah. That is it's like a weird thing about goal setting and like sort of designing your improvement too, because like it is good to have goals.
Yeah.
It's good to like set these things like, this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to win. But if you're putting your happiness towards it,
Right.
like it's not gonna feel good. And like, even if you hit it, usually you're not going to get a ton of happiness from that. Like in real estate, you know, I've like, escrowed big deals, and like I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get this big check or
Yes.
something. All of a sudden, when I get it, that's gonna be sick. It's always so anticlimactic. Actually, like getting a check. It's like the exciting part is like the chase of it almost. It's like the day-to-day stuff, and like when all of a sudden, okay, we're agreed, or you know, we worked through this problem. That's what's so like, it feels great. The actual day that it closes, it's like, especially in my thing where it's like it could be a year from like agreement to close. And it's always so anticlimactic, and it's been a weird thing for my whole like I guess career progression, is that like, I don't know, you think you're gonna be happy from these certain events, but they're not. It has like 0% increase in happiness. It's all about like it's almost like when I know I'm really working hard and I have like these minor like tells that like it's showing me that it's happening. The big events are almost never really like really exciting. It's like these like minor things that happen, these day to day. I have a fucking awesome conversation, and I hang up the phone. I'm like, God damn it, I'm the fucking man.
Right.
Like those are the events.
I would imagine that if you find a property that maybe somebody overlooked or misunderstood, or you know, you that's got to feel like, that's kind of exciting. Your heart gets going. You're like, this is going to be awesome.
Exactly.
You haven't even agreed on anything.
Nothing.
You're just like, I gotta contact this guy. I gotta find out. That's exciting.
Exactly.
But I think it's important to differentiate between sort of happiness levels and sort of excitement or momentary, because those aren't bad. Like winning is never bad.
No.
It's not bad. Buying the new car, as long as it was a good financial, that's not bad. But it will never make you happy.
No.
It's never, and it won't change if you were sad, miserable, something's going terrible, and you close that deal.
It's not going to change it.
Happy. You'll not be.
Yeah.
I think the thing to keep in mind, though, from everyone that I've seen that would be considered successful, a lot of the beauty comes in the security. In that, right now, not knowing that much about you, I would put a decent amount of money. If your truck engine blew up, you could probably afford to replace it.
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah. I'm not going to miss any meals.
Not everybody can do that. And that's stressful.
Yeah.
Like, that's really stressful. If something doesn't go well, I can't pay rent.
Yeah.
Or I can't replace my tires right now. I hope they don't blow.
Yeah.
That's stressful. So I wouldn't say you're like happier, but you're a lot less stressed.
For sure.
And so there's that incremental increase where, as you do what's quote unquote right and what makes sense, things go well and your stress levels go down.
Yeah.
And that does contribute to your happiness.
That's totally true. Actually, the first, like, just getting over that hump, I think is super important for just like every person to just get over that, to where like you can, like you said, have your truck engine blow up and you're not going to miss any meals that month, or, you know, you could still pay your health insurance, or, you know, whatever it is, like, getting over that initial just amount of enough money in the bank for like emergencies. I think that's super important.
You know, or it could be similar to being in a quasi healthy relationship where, like, you may not wake up on a Wednesday morning and be like, this is the greatest day of my life because I'm with this person I care about, but your happiness is markedly higher than when you were alone or not in a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's all these incremental things that add up together. By itself, if you're in a great relationship, but you're currently getting evicted, you're probably not happy.
Yeah.
If you're making a ton of money, but you're currently going through a divorce, like, you're probably not happy.
Yeah.
But if you start adding the pieces together, your body's working well, you're fit, you have some money, you have a good relationship, you're, you know, learning, like, you know, actually stimulating your brain, whether that's, you know, in school, in books, you're improving your career, all those things work together, and that overall adds to your happiness.
Yeah, it can bring together like a real satisfying life.
But one thing in and of itself isn't going to, you know, it's not going to make or break your happiness.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
You know, you have to do all the parts. You can't be lacking and then just be, oh, it's okay. I make a ton of money. It's like, no,
It can't,
Those
yeah.
guys aren't happy.
For sure
Those
not.
guys aren't happy.
Yeah.
Or like, like I said, if you have the love of your life, but you can't afford lunch, like
It's not
that
good.
sucks.
Yeah,
That
for
sucks
sure.
bad.
Yeah, it does suck.
Yeah. So
Do you drink alcohol?
I do not.
Oh, really?
I was born and raised Mormon, so I've
wow.
never had alcohol, never
Never in your life?
never smoked, no
Oh, wow.
weed.
So does that mean no caffeine either?
No, I've had some caffeine.
You're not a good
technically,
Mormon.
well, so for those who care, caffeine is not actually. That's more of like a social construct in Mormonism, where they're like no Coke because you aren't allowed to drink coffee or tea, and so as a result, they kind of took from that like, well, that means no caffeine. So then all of a sudden it was like no sodas that, but. That's not actually like
It's not in like the teachings or anything.
It's not written down here, and they've come out to say like, no, that's not.
Oh,
we didn't say that.
interesting.
But you have a lot of people raised. Like I was raised, we didn't have Coca-Cola.
Okay.
But I've had diet pills or weight loss pills that
Have caffeine in it.
So
Oh, okay, huh? Do you drink anything that has like an energy drink or anything like that?
I'm not opposed to. I don't regularly drink like energy drinks.
Or any sort of caffeine then,
No,
typically.
But I'm not like against it.
Yeah.
I think it's caffeine, creatine, and a few other things are pretty much the only supplements that have shown to put marked difference across the board. Every study, these work. It's not a placebo effect.
Yeah.
So it'd be sort of hypocritical where I'm very big on data and information, and then
Yeah.
be like, no, but we don't do that.
Huh, interesting.
We don't do that.
Huh. So you grew up Mormon, and are you and your wife Mormon then as well?
Yes, yeah, you would say. I don't go to church as much currently, but yes, I mean, I think that there's a lot of good family values and a good principles, and being self-sufficient and having, say, food storage and being somewhat financially responsible and putting your family first. And I think,
and also probably not like drinking alcohol and whatnot. I feel like
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, people can go off the deep end with it. I think people can do it reasonably as well.
Absolutely.
But there is like, I think a good foundation in a lot of the religions that, I don't know, I guess help out people in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it is I've never seen a great reason why you should want to drink. Like I don't see the benefit of drinking. I can see that you can be done in moderation. I can see people enjoy it. But if you look at, say, the downside, whether it's a DUI or just killing your liver or your body over time, I wouldn't see a reason why you'd be like, no, you have to drink alcohol.
Yeah.
It would be like, if you want to, like, great. I think awesome, good. I think it just, for me, a little bit, the risk reward is poor. If you get drunk and get in a fight, or you get drunk and total your car or whatever, I think that's significant damage to your life.
Yeah.
But I think it's,
Or even just less so than that. You're drunk and like act an idiot or say something that you shouldn't have.
Yeah, which I think.
So you've never drinking alcohol your whole life?
No,
wow.
never
Do you like ever curious like what it's like?
Not especially. I've definitely been around enough intoxicated people. I'm familiar
Have a
with
good
how
idea.
it goes.
Yeah. Have you ever done any sort of other drugs?
Nope, never have.
Wow, like no weed, no. I guess caffeine would be the only type of drug.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
sugar.
technically,
sugar.
I've had some pain medicine when I've been hurt.
Okay, yeah.
Which I always tell people,
opiates.
I'm a really big fan of. I had both fentanyl and morphine when I had gallbladder surgery, and I was like, those work.
Those are great. Yeah,
those are amazing. A 10 out of 10 would recommend.
I was in the hospital like 6 or 9 months ago, and I forget what it was. Something was wrong with it. Maybe it was even longer than that when I had like the skin infection. Yeah, and they asked me if I'd like some fentanyl because it was a lot of pain, and I was like, I've heard bad things about this. I didn't know that they had it at the hospital too. But
that's where it comes from. That's where it belongs. That's where it wins.
Yeah.
They had it in my IV, and I was like, this is a win. This is a win for everybody.
Wow.
This is good.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, seem to have like a good handle on life and like good structure in a lot of different ways. That's why I was curious if you drank alcohol or not. You know, it's funny. I actually had a intense psychedelic drug trip like
Yes.
a month or two ago, and
Oh.
during that, I decided that I'm done with alcohol for a while. I can't say that I'm for sure just never gonna
Right.
drink again in my entire life, but as of right now, I can't see any good reason in the future. And I've gone on sober streaks in the past where like, all right, only big events or something, and inevitably some fucking big fight night or something comes
Sure,
up,
sure.
and then I'll drink that night, and because of that, like, oh well, I drank last week and I can
Might
drink
as
this
well.
weekend, yeah, and I'll always get into these like habits where I'm just like, even if it's not, most of the time it's never like every day or anything, but even when it's every weekend, it seems to be too much for me. And so after this last event, I decided that like I can't see any reason in the future that's going to be big enough for me. So my birthday's coming up soon. We've got like big trips and stuff planned. I can't imagine a reason right now that I want to drink. So
Interesting. I think it'd be. Do you have anything where you're able to look back? Are you going to check, monitor, and say, well, I don't know, I used to feel this way, and now, do you think there'll be any way to measure if anything's changed in your life, or it'll just be like, I think this is the right thing to do?
I think my work is always better when I'm not drinking because it's like, I don't know, maybe it's part of getting older and stuff too. It's like it takes longer to recover from hangovers and whatnot. And then rather than Monday, I'm kind of sluggish. Maybe I don't make many calls or whatnot.
Okay.
And I'm not really progressing in my work. And because my work is not such that like I clock in and make money. Like
Right.
I don't make an hourly, I don't make a salary, anything like that. I'm strictly commission based. So it's only dependent on how much work I put out.
Sure.
I'd show up and, like rather than me being sluggish and doing whatever on Monday, now I can show up and just like, actually have a productive day. And so, yeah,
Okay.
that's I guess one of the,
motivational. Yeah. I think also there's a little magic. I don't think it's enough to make massive changes, but there's a little magic in saying I have control of myself. Like I do enjoy drinking. I have good times. I enjoy it. I believe that my life will be better if I don't do X. And I believe mentally I'll be stronger if I can show my body that I'm in control. I decide. Like I know you love meat and I love meat, but I think there is some magic to say like either I'm going to go say low meat or no meat, just for the sole reason of to show my body I can. I'm in control.
Yeah.
I'll decide. And then that carries over to, do you get up and do your 50 push-ups in the morning? Do you make the 100 calls? Like it's like I'm the one who's driving this ship.
Yes.
Not just like, yeah, this feels like good. I'll do this.
Yeah.
Today I'll do this, and then tomorrow I didn't feel like waking up,
Yeah.
so I was just sleep in. It's fine. Where everything's just in the moment. I'll make the decision on how I feel.
yeah,
It's like,
almost
no.
being like driven by your monkey brain.
Right.
Versus like you're the one that's in control.
Right. And I've decided that it's in my long-term best interest if I perform well at work. I've decided it's in my long-term best interest if I do these, if I get up and run, or if I do this. Really, does it make a difference to you if you're 195 or you're 175? Not really, not really, but from a mentality of this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I set goals. I keep goals. I'm in charge. I think
Yeah.
there's some
And just
huge
being like the
value.
highest and best version of myself too. Because that is actually one of the things that I've noticed as a difference. Like I'm walking around close to 10 pounds lighter.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
from not drinking on the
And
weekends.
the calorie intake is huge.
Yeah.
And
inflammation too.
Inflammation.
Yes.
Yep.
and just the strength of your body, if it's constantly trying to get over this, is it able to recover? Is your elbow going to get healed as quick if your body's like,
Yeah.
we're still trying to process this whiskey, like
Yeah.
we're working on it.
Exactly.
We do have the inflammation going.
Yeah.
Also, I'd be curious if maybe back in the other days, if you ran a spreadsheet on the money you spent on
Oh, that's it for sure too.
yeah.
Yeah, we go out like every weekend, like just nice dinners and stuff, and then
Right.
like the alcohol too is like it makes it double the cost of the meal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think I'll put a thought out there that my guess is if you keep it, and if it's a team effort and you're both excited about it, you will probably go out in general less and find other things. Not that you'll just become boring, because I think the awesomeness of being together and not having kids is you get to do fun things.
Yeah.
But you'll choose other opportunities. Like there'll be more hikes, there'll be more drives, there'll be more
Yeah.
kayaking, there'll be more this, because I wasn't out Friday night and I didn't drop $400 and then have to sleep the hangover off. It's like,
For sure.
we're going to Sedona, we're
Yeah.
doing this, or we're renovating this, or we're working
Yeah.
on our side business, because it becomes, right now, it becomes the reward is you get to go out and eat and drink. Well, if you kind of take that away, now the new thing that you'll replace it with is, say, a positive activity, whether it's just fun or it's like, yeah, we're gonna work on our clothing brand. That's gonna create the excitement
For sure.
And so that's what happens. But if I can get satisfaction and enjoyment from just simply going out and spending $300, that's easy. And that's what we'll do, because that's easy. Like, and I earned it, and I deserve this, and I should have this. It's like, okay, well, if you take that away, not that it's bad, not that it's bad, but that it's sort of like a shortcut. But now if
maybe like a less satisfying thing to reward yourself with.
Yeah.
Because I do got to say, a meal out,
Amazing.
It's one of the most nicest things that I experience, especially, a couple old fashions or something, nice appetizer, real fancy place. Mr. Werner, how you doing today?
Right.
Let me get to your table.
Right.
I really do love that experience a lot.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's the thing. It's not.
Yeah.
You're not an evil person for
No, not
enjoying
at all.
something fun. It's just, I think it's sometimes you can replace it with something that's maybe a little bit longer term, takes a little bit longer.
It's almost like leaning into gluttony a little bit, because it's like that all the fun and benefit is only in the moment, is only in like the mouth pleasure that I get and the little buzz that I get in that moment, versus, like you said, working on something that has like a long-term goal for us, or whatever it is, even if it's just like working out, or maybe working on the Jiu-Jitsu event, trying to like figure out how to make that profitable. Like all these things are going to have long-term effects and like long-term satisfaction.
And to view it as, let's take for example, that Jiu-Jitsu event, regardless of whether that, say, pans out long-term or not, if you're viewing it as, I enjoyed the journey and the process and the learning and the time I spent with you and working on it, and then it's a win no matter what.
For sure.
If it's only a win if it becomes profitable and you do it for the next 10 years, that's tough. That's
it is.
tough.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, to go back to your gluttony, the issue, again, not that you shouldn't, because you should enjoy it, but I think the issue comes is like, well, how do I lean into that? The only way I lean into that is sort of by spending more money, or doing it more often.
More fancy places.
Yeah, fancier places, or more time.
And there's almost no upper limit to that,
Exactly.
too. You can go to some crazy expensive places.
Stuff. and then you can sort of make that your thing, which is fine. But then you start looking back in 5 years and you're like, okay, well, if it was $500 a night, multiplied by 50 weekends in a year.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
I could own an apartment complex for that.
Exactly. But it has to become your fun, because if you're replacing your fun with more work, that doesn't work. Now we're just miserable.
Exactly.
So it has to be something, like, or if it's like literally you get mats and Saturday morning is just your guys' jiu-jitsu time, like just you guys do it, or something.
Yeah, or we'll make rugs or something.
Yeah, we made rugs. Yeah,
we got some downstairs.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. Okay.
We did. I did it for Mother's Day a few weeks ago. Made rugs. It's called tufting. It's actually a blast.
Did you, like, with the sewing gun?
Yeah, it's like a little Tommy gun.
And then you get to trim it. And it looks fun.
Have you done it before?
I have not, but I'm jealous of it. I think that's awesome.
It is pretty fun.
Yeah, it looks fun.
Huh.
Have you had any ideas on how to make your jiu-jitsu event profitable, and what we need to do?
So I do have a lot of ideas. I'm like really kind of nervous for this next one, just because it's almost like a make or break type thing. Like I'd had this idea in my head. I put like a certain amount of money in a bank account. I'm like, if I make it profitable by this, that's great. If I lose it all, it was a great learning lesson.
Okay.
Well, I fucking almost lost it all on the very first one.
As we do.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so I'm like, I doubled that. I doubled down into it.
Oh, okay.
And you know,
bold.
went the second one, and like I didn't lose as much money the second one.
trending in the right
I'm in the
direction.
right direction, but at the same time, it's like this next one's kind of an all or nothing.
Right.
And maybe to my own, this wasn't the right way to approach it. I didn't approach it necessarily with a business mindset of like how to make the most money and how to, keep costs the least expensive. What I thought was I'm going to make the nicest fucking product I possibly can and the money will come.
Yes.
And there's a lot of upfront costs with
Yes.
going about it that way.
Correct.
And so, so I've got a lot of ideas. I think for this next one, I will be able to make it profitable, so or at least self-sustainable.
Okay.
If it can basically break even, then I can,
run it again.
I have a method of like continuing to go and keep doing it. And so I think I can do that for this next one, or hopefully even make a little bit of money. But again, it's sort of an all or nothing thing, and I'm just been nervous of to do it so far. So I think a lot of it comes down to my marketing. I think I've got to have a much more professional marketing approach. Yeah,
If you're open to suggestions,
I
have
absolutely am.
suggestions.
Please do.
What I think that maybe we didn't lean into as much are your relationships and also the people that have relationships in terms of obviously social media is awesome and everything, but like somebody who has a gym, or someone who knows someone who has a gym, pretty much for almost the entire gym, all of the gyms.
Yeah.
And I know, for example, for ACS, they have an unlimited amount of blue belts. I mean, we have like at any given night, a good night, we have 70 people on the mats.
Wow.
And every night.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and I don't think we really, I think we kind of have maybe one or two people there. And I think we, if we leaned into it, I think we could have 6 or 7. And I think same for Jay Pages. I think
sure.
even getting the Autos boys in there. But I think a little bit of it comes with like, if we go into the gyms, talk to people, get them to understand like, yep, this is for everybody. You have, this is going to be professional and everything. Just because I think not everyone really grasps. It's like you could do like this person. I'm talking to you. You could do
you
this.
can sign up.
And you can get money. And either way, it's going to be a super professional event, and you're going to like it
For sure.
And
maybe more
it's good.
personal outreach to people. And I think like going to actual gyms. Like I think maybe just having a more tempered approach to that, or maybe even multiple visits too. Because one thing I did on the first one, especially, I guess both of them too. I just went to different gyms. I gave my flyer. I would go to an open mat, give my flyer. Maybe the flyer's hanging up in there, and I did that for a number of different places.
Right.
But like, I think reaching out to individuals and then like also having like more discussions with the coaches too.
Yes.
And saying like, hey, will you have can
Who
we
do you
get guys?
have? Who do you have in mind? I think being the, back to sales, it's so easy to say, here's this flyer. Hope you guys could come. We really like to see you there, basically. But if you, talk to Jay Pages, you talk to Steve, you talk to these people, and you say, this is what I'm thinking. This is kind of what I'm looking at right now. Who do you think you might have that'd be interested? Or if he's like, well, yeah, we've got 4 blue belts, but we got this, or we've got like two killer women that I'd love to get matches. And now you take that information, you literally write it down, and you go to them, the next person. You're like, well, I've got a purple belt 170. Who do you have that would match up? Okay, can I message, or could you message them?
For sure.
And then
I think that's a good way of it doing it too. For sure.
To see who they have, or because the Valley is awesome in that we all know each other, and there's not a lot of animosity, and we don't hate gyms. Like there's not really like you're not allowed to come to our gym. But on the other hand, we all compete, and you kind of have people who want to get some get back, or some gyms who like to, we'd like to beat these guys or something, healthy, nice, friendly. And so if we can tap into that and get coaches who, they've got a new brown belt that, they want to put out there. They want to get some hype, and it's like, all right, could you get this guy a match? And then you can go to other ones and be like, look, I've got it.
got this weight, this belt level, who you got.
Who you got. And even if it's like, well, we've got a purple belt, but he's a D1 wrestler, it's like, okay, all right, let's see what we can do. But like if you just say put out there like 170 purple belts,
exactly. And then also too, I think the ways that I've done it last time, it's like record, hey motherfuckers, sign up to my competition.
Right. Yeah. No, I think I think that's good in a way as part of a more holistic, also professional approach, because I think you want to have some personality. I don't know anybody who runs. I mean, I know Gustavo, but I don't know him. He doesn't put out videos. Like it's not very personal. There's no personality behind any of the tournaments. You don't even know what they're trying to do except for just make money. So if I like
having a vision behind it.
Having a person behind it.
I think that is important too. So I think there's like probably somewhere in between where I can have like really professionally edited videos and still understanding that like I'm a big part of this, or like this is just an idea that I had and this is my vision with it.
Right.
Trying to like help the Arizona Jiu-Jitsu scene, trying to create a rule set that I think is most indicative of finding the person who's best at jiu-jitsu, not necessarily best at playing the game. And I think that's kind of was my biggest, like what I was trying to create with this too, is that I think a lot of the points rule sets don't necessarily, facilitate who's better at jiu-jitsu. And I don't know if the, sub only judges decisions is the best either, but it's like, seems to be one of the best I could come up with so far.
Right.
And
when you think about it, the one nice thing as the judge on some of them is we've had so few close, like I don't know who won, and I think that is a factor of if you just had one tournament and you're just like, well, maybe they were just all mismatches. It's like no, they weren't. There were a lot of there were not a lot, but there were several decisions, but it was very clear.
Exactly.
There were very few where I'm like, I don't know.
For sure.
So I think that if you have the combination of sub only, but with pushing the action, like no stalling and everything, and that they know it's going to a judge's decision, so they can't just be like, oh, well, I'll just ride this out for a tie, basically. And there's no EBI where, well, I know this guy's better than me, I'll just hold out and hopefully I'll get on the back and I'll win. Which that is the right thing to do. If you know the person's better, you're stupid if you don't.
You got to play the rule set.
Play the rule set, play the strategy.
But that's the thing. I want to create something that's like the least amount of opportunity to play the rule set.
There's least gamesmanship of doing it, and you have to actually win. And if you don't win, you literally are left with nothing to complain about. You can't say like, well, he just did what? He just did what? What is it he did? He dominated you in positions and in legitimate sub attempts. Like, so he was better than you on that day,
And also too, like maybe it was just happenstance. Maybe it was like offering money for like the bonuses, like bonus for takedown of the night, sub of the night. But like this last one, there was 18 matches total and 15 ended in submission. I mean, that's a crazy high stat. Like, I don't know, part of it probably is also too a certain percentage of the competition wasn't, black belts or whatever. It was, a lot of blues and purples and whatnot, but still, go to any competition of blues or purple, it's not 80% of them are ending in submission. So,
I think it's good, and I've always been a big fan of it. I'm not a points person, but I understand that points in their own way do spur action. If you know if he gets that hook in, it's going to be 4-0 and you're probably going to lose. You're going to fight pretty hard.
You're going to fight like hell.
And then in fighting like that, to not let that hook in, your neck's going to be open and you'll probably get finished. So it does spur. Where in sub only, it's like, oh, he took my back, I'll just defend my neck. It's fine. And I don't think that's, even though, I mean, that suits me, that works well for me in my jiu-jitsu, but it's not, I don't think it's what you should strive for.
That is interesting too, because, I actually, because I had Nez on the podcast too, and before he came on, I didn't think that points spur action in any way, but he pointed out exactly that, of like, time is running out, it's 0-0, or like there's a close score, people fight like hell to not get that actual score. So there's like these intense scrambles that happen to stop the scores. And so they, like, points actually do beget action in that way.
In a certain way,
So, but it's like, I don't know, it's like, what's the right answer? I don't know if jiu-jitsu, I think we gotta almost as a community try to figure out how to fucking get around this, because it's not like, in basketball, it's not like you go to the basketball court and say like, okay, which rule set are we going under?
No.
But in
Yes.
jiu-jitsu, for some weird reason, there's like 17
Right.
fucking rule sets, and like it depends on which competition is which rule set we're doing.
And who's going to win, because some people will always win under this and they won't win on a different rule
Exactly.
set.
Yeah. Maybe they're great at playing the IBJJF rule set, but you get them in a sub only where you can't just pass guard and then you're done.
Right.
And, you're
And they get submitted.
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
Get submitted, or that they just refuse to learn leg locks, which is a
Yeah.
whole different
Yeah.
topic. But
Yeah.
it's I think it's good. I think now we're seeing like the Tackett brothers, Rotolo brothers, all these people who are just action, Mika, where it's
Yeah.
like, win or lose, that match is going to be fire. Like it's going to be good. And I think a lot of it has to do with them. They're comfortable standing, they're comfortable in guard, they're hunting submissions, but a lot of that's on them and their style of jiu-jitsu. There's still people who are more than happy to be boring.
Yeah.
If they can. I think it's a little bit on the refs, the rule set to have, I didn't love it for how I was coaching Issa, but they were aggressive on their stalling calls.
They are, for sure.
Yeah.
They're super aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that's probably good for
Yeah,
ADCC.
absolutely.
Yeah, like they're just keeping you going constantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one clear difference between them and most other rule sets is they are aggressive for stalling calls.
Yes, but if you didn't get anything done in points, you already had 3 stalling calls on both of you. Like you were already in we're going to start giving you
Negative
points.
points. Yeah,
by
exactly.
point, and that's
It's
the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's like if you have a position and you go 10 seconds without doing something, that's like a stall.
Yeah.
It's not like a long time.
No, and I think that's if you are going to go more towards submission, you have to have that component, because otherwise you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can give up unlimited points and a regard and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's why ADCC is interesting in that it's like the mixture between sub only and points. But like it's also, I think part of the reason it's so successful is just because of its prestige.
Yes.
Like I think if you tried to introduce a rule set, like if I were to try to introduce this complex rule set to people and expect them to try to learn it, no way.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's every year, myself included, people find out they didn't know the rules to ADCC.
Yeah.
And that's banana. Like actual competitors make stupid mistakes. We
Yeah.
still got -1 people pulling in finals and they didn't know that was a negative.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's the beginning of the match and there's negative points at the beginning
Right.
because it's a
They
final.
didn't understand, or they didn't even understand that there was an overtime, or they didn't realize that if you are in on a shot for 3 seconds, you then like all these things.
Yeah.
Or that you had to have 75% of their back on the mats in order to get every year. And like you said, you imagine showing up to the NBA finals and being like, I don't know what the rules are. That would be odd.
That'd be crazy.
That would be odd. But
Yeah.
I do like that it gives us some variety.
Yeah.
We do have some options.
I think the more opens that happen, the better people are going to get at the rules.
Exactly. But to your point, if IBJJF had paid their people earlier, introduced heel hooks, and pushed no gi, I don't think ADCC would have really taken off, because
Probably
everyone would love IBJJF no gi to mean something.
Yeah.
That would be huge. And if they were paying 50 grand for the winner back 10 years ago for the absolute and the 10 grand, I think,
it probably would have like stayed on par.
Yeah.
But like ADCC came to the scene with the opens and like took over.
Took over,
Yeah. And now an open can, it's like this ADCC Arizona for some reason didn't get the entirety show out that other opens and like last year's opens did. But like opens can have a more stacked division than than the worlds in IBJJF. So like for instance, like I did ADCC Chicago last year, my division was maxed out with I think 156 competitors.
Wow.
And this is just a random open across the US, ADCC Chicago. No-gi Worlds had 70 something competitors in it. So literally over double. And also too, it's like they put out some stat, I think it was for ADCC Denver, that there was a competitor from every state in the United States at there.
Really?
Or like from 45
Right.
plus
Yeah.
something. So, I mean, the level of competition that you're getting at these, people travel all over for it. I mean, it's super high level competition and all just for opens.
Yeah, and then there's no money. You're
No
paying
money.
$150.
It's all for
or
the prestige of that little medal.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I think it's good. I think, like you said, it'll help people understand the rule set and then train for the rule set.
Yeah.
And then coaches will coach to the rule set, and it won't be sort of foreign, and they'll understand that wrestling is important, and we'll do that, and we'll get better. And I think it molds you towards ADCC and away from IBJJF. So now that's tough for some people.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. It's all
Yeah.
that stuff.
For sure. It's like the natural progression of the sport.
Yeah, and then 10 years, it'll be way better than it is now. And
BDCC will be
it'll
number
be
one.
amazing.
Everyone will be trying to adapt to BDCC rules.
where it's actually just in a Speedo.
Yeah.
Male
You
or
have to wear a
female, it's just Speedo. And
Yeah.
I think you have to like,
All the refs are lady boys.
exactly. And you have to drink a Foster's or something beer like before the match. And
You have to do cocaine. You have to test positive.
nose beers.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, you didn't test high enough. Sorry. We're going to have to take your medal.
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yep. Awesome. Well, dude, thank you for coming on.
Right.
We've done quite a while here.
Yes.
So,
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, brother.
I like to talk.
yeah, I love having you on. Always love talking to you.
Yay.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Oos.